Hello, cinema friends. Welcome to another edition of Cinesundry. I'm your host, Markus Seaberry, and this week it's all about high fashion as we review House of Gucci. Now, before we review House of Gucci, I want to remind you about our rating system. There it is. Now, if it's just the best film you've seen all year, the writing, the acting, the directing, everything is high quality and top notch, it's going to get that top rating of our tour. If it has some good points, but it doesn't quite blow you away, you don't think they've quite hit the mark, it's going to get that middle rating of middling. And if it's just the most horrible, abysmal, god-awful thing you've ever seen, it's going to get that lower rating of heck. And now, the rundown. House of Gucci deals with the trials and tribulations and ups and downs of the Gucci family, who also run the clothing line, the fashion label Gucci. And it mainly focuses on the time when Maurizio Gucci comes to power in the 80s into the 90s. And now, let's talk about script and acting. The script was decent, the dialogue was fair, but I guess the main problem is it just felt a little underdeveloped. You know, they're covering a large period of time, and it felt like some important plot points were overlooked or condensed, and that was a problem for me. And the acting is also a bit of a mixed bag. Now, first of all, we have Adam Driver as Maurizio Gucci. Adam Driver's a phenomenal actor. You may have seen him in the HBO series Girls. He also played Kylo Ren in the last Star Wars trilogy. He delivers a great performance as Maurizio. You can see how Maurizio was really content to just do his own thing and not be involved in the fashion game. But you also see how circumstances kind of put him on that path. And next you have Lady Gaga as Patricia Reggiani. Lady Gaga, international global pop star. You've also seen her in movies like the recent A Star is Born. She's Patricia Reggiani. I like the way she plays the character. She's opportunistic and a bit ruthless. My biggest problem with her is her accent. It sounds more Russian than Italian. It just really didn't work for me. And next we have Al Pacino as Aldo Gucci. It's Al Pacino, Godfather, Serpico, that guy. As always, solid top-notch performance as Aldo Gucci. He befriends Maurizio and kind of sees the potential in Maurizio. It's a very good performance. And we also have another vid, Jeremy Irons as Rodolfo Gucci. Now, of course, Jeremy Irons, the voice of Scar in The Lion King. He played Alfred in the latest DC Universe films. A very, very solid performance as Rodolfo Gucci, Maurizio's father. He loves Maurizio, but he doesn't really agree with his life choices, and that kind of leads to tension. And last and least is Jared Leto as Paolo Gucci. Now, Jared Leto as a Joker in Suicide Squad. He was in films like Dallas Buyers Club. He plays Paolo Gucci, who's the family screw up. And the biggest problem is, look at him. Look at this guy who looks like he can still pass for his 30s, and they decide to have him play this much older character and give him prosthetics and makeup to make him look aged. But you can still clearly tell it's Jared Leto, and it looks silly, and it looks really goofy. And again, it takes you out of the movie. And now let's talk about director's technique. The director of this film is Ridley Scott. You know him from Blade Runner. You know him from Gladiator. He is known as the best eye in the business because his films tend to be visually stunning. And this film is no exception. You have all kinds of different locales from Italy to America and different places, and all of it is eye-catching. Even the most simple spots, like a laundry room, he'll shoot it in a way that's visually stunning and it'll draw you in. So kudos to Mr. Scott. And now let's talk about sentiment and rating. Honestly, my sentiment when I ended the movie was one of confusion. Because there were things I loved, like Ridley Scott's direction, Adam Driver's performance, Jeremy Irons' performance, and Al Pacino's performance. But then there were things that I hated, like Lady Gaga's accent and Jared Leto's overall performance. It's just clearly Jared Leto in old man makeup. And the performance was just so silly and over the top. It feels like another movie when he's in it. I didn't want that. And honestly, it feels like a failure in casting. It was like, oh, let's cast Jared Leto because he's hot. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't always serve the project. Honestly, you could have just cast an older actor. It probably would have worked a lot better. So there's a lot of bad and there's a lot of good. So for that reason, I'm going to have to give House of Gucci a rating of middling. Didn't quite do it for me, House of Gucci. Close but no cigar. And well, that's going to do it for this edition of Cinesundry. I've been your host, Markus Seaberry. And remember, take a moment. Treat yourself to a movie. See you next time.